Alastor here, and well, I mentioned on the Geek Easy this week that I had been playing the Dauntless beta, so I thought I'd show some gameplay from that and talk a little bit more about the game. So, Dauntless is made by Phoenix Labs. They're based in Canada, and the game itself is very much similar to the vein of Monster Hunter. You're a slayer instead of a hunter, and you're hunting behemoths instead of monsters, but the premise is the same. It's not really an MMO, it's more like a shared world game. Uh, most teams, at least so far as I've gotten, the biggest team you have is 4 people, and the most time you'll ever see most people is when you're in a social zone, not when you're actually out on the field. And unlike a traditional MMO where it's usually a very open world that you can wander around in, everything is isolated into instance areas of either the islands when you're on hunts or Ramsgate, which is the social hub. And see, flares, like I just used there, are actually very important in this game because there's no map. There's only that compass. So if you find a monster, the behemoth, you have to activate a flare so your other teammates can find you. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting that thing alone. Now, this is a shrike, which we like to call an owl bear because, well, it's an owl bear. But you can see the general premise of gameplay: just hunt monsters, and I'm not very good at it. And this is actually me doing some seal clubbing, because this is like the second thing you fight in the game outside the tutorial, and I'm relatively decently along now. All in all, I will say that I have had immense fun playing this game. It very much reminds me of Warframe in terms of replayability. Warframe's a very interesting game because you spent a lot of time grinding. Yeah, you're doing the same stuff over and over again, but it never seems to get old because everything is always slightly different. It's the same here. The procedural generation is not quite as robust as Warframe, but obviously this game's still in beta, so there's that. But the fights are never the same. The enemy will never use the exact same moves in the exact same way. It's never going to be in the exact same location. You're not going to have the exact same team unless you're always going with a pre-built. I would like to see some Monster Hunter style missions where you go out here and collect X amount of parts from Y monster. I would like to see smaller monsters and larger fields, so you can basically just load into a field on a patrol and fight smaller monsters to gain other resources for either armor or weapons or potions for buffs. I would also like to see ranged weapons. I am using probably the only actual ranged weapon in the game, and as you can see, I'm not really using it as a ranged weapon because its primary capability is still beating a monster senseless. You can see me attempt to use the range ability here, and miss. They have mentioned they're working on one, but they haven't really given any details. I'd like to see bows. I'd like to see some sort of, I guess, cannon musket thing. Something that you can still use at close range, because they did say they wanted everything to be visceral. They didn't want people just sitting out at range and plinking at behemoths, which I can get that. Bow guns like those, obviously, in Monster Hunter would be a good idea. And honestly, there's a lot of things they could do with the game, and they've got a lot of improvement to do because the game's still not quite stable. They've got a long road ahead of them, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to do things great. So far, my interactions with the developers have been very good. They're very laid back, despite the fact that they're doing something very serious. They take what they're doing seriously, but they don't take themselves too seriously. They crack jokes. They confirm that the Gnasher, which is another creature you can fight, is in fact a beaver bird. It's just a giant beaver with feathers. Um, they interact with the community. They are active on their own Reddit. Uh, Again, they remind me a lot of DE, who do Warframe. They're very proactive in dealing with their player base, and that to me is invaluable. Look at Destiny. Destiny has a huge, active, and generally very friendly community, but the game's not doing well right now, and the developers have kind of sunk back into a hole. They're not talking to us. They're not giving us details. They're only hyping up content that they don't really have. And like, oh, well, we screwed up this release. Let's hype up the next release. We're going to do better for that. But we're not going to communicate anything with our people. We're not going to really answer any questions on social media, that sort of stuff. DE, and from what I've seen, Phoenix Labs are completely different. They're very open, they're very talkative, they share information. They have a Trello where they're basically got their developmental roadmap. And that is probably the biggest reason I think this game is going to go places. For any flaws this game may have, Phoenix Labs is going to be making up for it in the fact that they are open and they are including their players in the development. Something that a lot of other developers could learn from. So if you want my review, my final say, give this game a try. Absolutely.